Hello, I'm David Leavitt, Utah County Attorney. I'd like you to meet one of the lawyers in my office, Ryan McBride, who heads up our general felonies trial team. Ryan, thanks for being here with me.
Glad to be here.
I brought Ryan in because I'd like him to discuss a little bit about our caseloads and the challenges we face with them. Ryan, why don't you give us an idea of what we face?
So I'm, like you said, I'm a general felony prosecutor in the office. I've been with the office for over 10 years. And, you know, in my practice, over that 10-year period, I've seen some big changes in the office. Mainly those changes have been in the caseloads. I've seen the caseloads grow exponentially, as it were, and the challenge with that is that our resources haven't grown at the same rate the caseloads have, and it becomes taxing as an attorney to try and keep up. But along with that growth in caseloads has also come a growth in complex cases. So I remember when I started, the county attorney had a whiteboard in his office, a big whiteboard, like 8 feet by 4 feet. And that whiteboard had all the homicide cases listed there. There are generally 1 or 2 on that board at a time. And there was also space there because there is a 4-foot vertical space, 8 feet long, for all of they call them the persona non grata cases. So these are the violent felons and people that keep making their way back into the community and putting people at risk. Well, fast forward 10 years, and now that whiteboard is chock full. There's not much space on there for additional cases. I don't know how many we're at right now because the cases come in and go out so quickly, these homicide cases. But we have, I think we have over a dozen now. And that's important because when you add those complex cases to a general felony caseload, it's impossible to keep track of your other cases and do a good job on both the complex homicide cases. So yeah, when I have a homicide case, that takes a lot of attention, right? But my other cases don't go away.
Right.
We have each attorney in the office has a normal felony caseload. And while they have that caseload, they still have these complex homicide cases. And you know, that number ranges 100 cases, open cases at a time, over 200 plus. I think last couple of years ago, I know it was about 360. But the point is that there is an enormous caseload that each prosecutor has, and then they have these homicide trials that take so much time. So how much time I can devote to that homicide trial or that case is limited by my having to keep track of this other group of cases. So absolutely it affects it. Mm-hmm. Okay, so my job is I'm in front of one court, one judge per week. So that means I handle all the criminal cases assigned to that judge each week. And that calendar, all of those cases, that's generally about 100 cases on that calendar per week. Now, my assignment is a little bit less than 100, but that's the size of a normal calendar. So I have to prepare for all of those cases during the week. That means calling witnesses, reading police reports, looking at the backgrounds of people that are accused, all those things. And preparing 100 cases, it's hard to describe what is involved in that, but that takes days to prepare for that many cases. I would say that each week is not the same cases that are on the calendar each week, so it's a new batch of cases I have to prepare for. There's some carryover, of course, but it's taxing, and it's very difficult to prepare adequately for those cases, even if I have nothing else to do.
Right.
But if you have, say, a special assignment with a murder case, then it's in my view, it's virtually impossible to do a good job on both assignments.
What happens if you have a trial? How does that affect your court preparation for normal court day?
Well, most felony trials are at least 2 days. I'm in court all day, 1 day per week. If I'm in trial for 2 of those days, then it gives me, by the numbers, 2 more days, but really I'm in meetings, essential meetings, and other preparations for most of another day. So I may have 1 day to prepare for 100 cases.
Right.
And the way that really affects me is that it's difficult for me to want to try cases, because am I going to give all my attention to that case and ignore the other 100?
Right.
I mean, that's the conundrum I have as a prosecutor, because if I want someone to plead his charge, I need to anticipate that case is going to trial, and if I do that, my other cases don't go away. Right. I still have to handle 100 other cases that week.
Which is why I tell people over and over and over again that the cornerstone of the American criminal justice system isn't the jury trial any longer. It's the plea bargain. And it's the plea bargain because prosecutors have to settle cases in order to manage their calendars. And in my mind, that's an absolute corruption of the reasoning behind plea bargains. We have to return the jury trial, but we can't do it when you have 100 cases every week.
As I go through those cases on the calendar every week, I look at them and I say, look, this case deserves a trial. You know, this defendant deserves the punishment that the legislature defined for this crime. And in my view, I think that it should be set for trial. But the reality is, I have to consider all those other cases too. And I have to consider that each case deserves attention, and kind of make that analysis. Is this that one case that needs to go to trial and that is going to cause me to treat the other cases with less attention?
Yeah.
And in my mind, that's unacceptable.
Out of those cases that you deal with every week, what percentage of those will have an identifiable victim with whom you're supposed to be speaking?
I couldn't give you a firm number on that. I would say maybe half of them. And I would say that because we've got a lot of theft victims of theft. And really, there's more than that, though, because behind every person that's got a drug conviction, which makes up a big portion of those cases, is a family that I think should have input on how their family members should be treated in the criminal justice system. What's going to help them get out of that addiction? But there's those traditional victims, like those who are victims of assault or something else, or theft, a very high number. When you include family members of drug users and addicts, we're talking 80+% of those people have witnesses and others who are touched by that offense. I think ideally I should be calling each of those people and saying, give me your input. Explain to me what's happening in your life and in this person's life. What do we need to do to change things? And unfortunately, I don't get to do that on as many occasions as I think I should.
Well, and I imagine when you're not able to visit with victims or the families of drug-addicted people, that affects your ability to really craft the best resolution if you're going to resolve it.
Absolutely, absolutely. Nobody knows better that someone's situation than those that are close to them. I certainly don't. And I think it would be helpful for me to talk to people and say, hey, what needs to happen to change their lives? And then we're going to craft the resolution, the sentence, based on that input. As I think about this issue of resources, sometimes it feels like I'm saying that we're not doing our job, we're not doing it well, and we're not capable, or something else, and that's not what it is. We have very capable attorneys in our office. And we have attorneys that are Cambridge educated, Harvard educated. We have attorneys who have won national awards for trial advocacy. We have very capable, experienced, and excellent attorneys that want to do excellent work. But the issue is that, if Michael Jordan was playing basketball, playing games, 3 games a day for 7 days a week, he'd start throwing the ball away.
He'd also maybe start throwing the ball away a little more if he had 17 people guarding him all the time.
Yeah, right.
Which is
and that's the
what
truth.
you're dealing with.
You asked about what it's like to handle a criminal calendar in court. We have 2 attorneys in court, 2 prosecutors in court. Generally, we have 10+ defense attorneys handling that same caseload. So it's like you're being guarded by 17 defenders
right.
trying to make a basket. And when a defense attorney can put so much attention to a case, but you as a prosecutor have, and they have maybe 10 or 20 or 30 cases, and you have 60 cases on that day, it's extremely difficult to provide the same sort of representation to our county as that individual is getting.
Right.
If that makes sense.
What does it do as far as your personal life and recharging, the ability to just not burn out?
Yeah, I think there's two things that happen. One is that I'm committed to excellence. That's how I feel. I want to do the best job I can. And the result of having more work than I can possibly do in the 40-hour work week is I take my work home with me.
Right.
It's not uncommon for me to be rehearsing arguments, talking through logic at any time of the day. You know, I speak with my wife about my cases. Hey, how about this? I take my computer home with me almost every single day and work on cases. And so it eats into my family time for sure. And even then I can't keep up. The second way it affects you is sometimes you say, you know what, enough's enough. I've got to let this go. And the result is that your cases don't get the attention they deserve.
Right. Because in the end, you really only can do so much.
Right.
So what does a win look like to you?
Well, you know, I had the privilege of being involved in a high-profile murder case recently that resolved, and you know, seeing the mother of that victim just so happy that the case had resolved, and at the good work and the effort that our office had put in that case, the FBI, other police agencies, Orem, and particular police officers put in. It was incredible. You just feel so great about your work, and there's nothing more rewarding than that, than seeing the joy and happiness that comes to people because of the good work that you do, even in a tough situation, a terrible situation like that.
I'd like to thank Ryan for being here today and say, you know, I have great prosecutors who work in this office. They're dedicated, they're smart, they're capable. But the reality is, our constitutional duty to protect this county can't be done in 2020 on a 1980 budget. We need your help to get that message to our elected officials, and we need you to get behind that yourselves so that you can support us in helping you. Thanks a lot.